Tune into Nice Radio every Saturday at 7:30 a.m. for A View from the Outside, hosted by Brereton Horne. A View from the Outside takes a look at key issues affecting St Vincent and the Grenadines and gives a global perspective on how these issues are viewed. Host Brereton Horne will examine a variety of topics to enlighten, stimulate debate, and explore solutions. Hear the facts, hear the real-life stories, hear A View from the Outside. Join Brereton Horne at 7:30 a.m. every Saturday on Nice Radio for A View from the Outside.
This society needs a spectacle. It might help us to see some evil. This society needs a spectacle.
On A View from the Outside this week being the 18th of March 2023, we look at unconstitutional, with the view being that with the emphatic judgment of Justice Esco Henry in declaring that the COVID-19 vaccine mandate of the government of St Vincent and the Grenadines was completely undemocratic and, among other things, unconstitutional. The government of St Vincent and the Grenadines has an obligation to obey the court judgment and reinstate the workers, thus putting an end to their financial woes. It is worth noting that in the context of today's program, when we refer to Constitution, we are referring to the Constitution of St Vincent and the Grenadines. The Cambridge Dictionary states that unconstitutional means not allowed by the Constitution. That definition tells us that if something is unconstitutional, it is the opposite of what the Constitution of St Vincent and the Grenadines permits. The definition also tells us that if something is unconstitutional, that thing goes against the Constitution of St Vincent and the Grenadines. It is imperative to note that the Constitution of St Vincent and the Grenadines is the highest law of the land. It is the highest law in St Vincent and the Grenadines. The Constitution offers full protection to the citizens of the country. The Constitution broadly states what can and cannot be done to the citizens of the country. Therefore, any other law which is made in the country must be made in accordance with or in agreement with the Constitution of the country. No other law, be it vaccine mandate or otherwise, should be forced upon the citizens of St Vincent and the Grenadines, and no other law should force the citizens of St Vincent and the Grenadines to do something which goes against the Constitution. If ever that is done, once it is challenged in the courts, it will be deemed unconstitutional. Justice Esco Henry emphatically declared in the summary of her judgment that the imposition of the vaccine mandate of the government of St Vincent and the Grenadines is unlawful, unconstitutional, ultra vires, disproportionate, and tainted by procedural impropriety. In the summary of her judgment, Justice Henry used the terms unlawful and unconstitutional on multiple occasions to describe the actions of the various organs or departments of government which participated, enabled, and aided and abetted the government in imposing the COVID-19 vaccine mandate on the workers of the country. It is no secret that teachers were subjected to the unconstitutional mandate. Police officers were subjected to the unconstitutional mandate. Nurses were subjected to the unconstitutional mandate. Customs officers were subjected to the unconstitutional mandate. Doctors were subjected to the unconstitutional mandate. Sanitation workers were subjected to the unconstitutional mandate. Other workers up and down the country were subjected to the unconstitutional mandate. Workers from all of those categories were sacked by their department or organization because they refused to be forced against their conscience, a protection which the Constitution offers, to have the COVID-19 vaccine injected into them. Many of them who actually turned up for work were either escorted from their place of work or were prevented from entering the premises altogether. The aiders and abettors and enablers of the ULP government all inexplicably deemed them to have abandoned their jobs. That action by the ULP government, its aiders and abettors and enablers, left hundreds of workers on the breadline, struggling to feed their families and to keep a roof over their heads. It is that undemocratic, draconian action which led the claimants to bring their case against the government. The judgment is emphatic. It deemed the COVID-19 mandate unlawful, unconstitutional, and void. The judgment is clear that the actions of the ULP government and those who enabled it in relation to the COVID-19 vaccine mandate are unlawful, meaning that they are against the law, the highest law of the land in St Vincent and the Grenadines. The judgment is clear that the actions of the ULP government and its aiders and abettors and enablers in relation to the COVID-19 vaccine mandate are unconstitutional, meaning that their actions conflict with the Constitution of St Vincent and the Grenadines, and that they interfere with the rights of the people of St Vincent and the Grenadines. The judgment is clear that the Minister of Health's decision to deem that workers resigned from their jobs without having given them an opportunity to be heard or to defend themselves was a breach of natural justice, meaning that that action was totally unfair and partial. The judgment is clear that the action taken by the Minister of Health was procedurally improper and therefore void. In other words, the decision of the Minister of Health did not follow proper procedure and, as such, has no validity in the laws of St Vincent and the Grenadines. The judgment is clear that the decision of the Commissioner of Police to deem that police officers have resigned from their jobs is unconstitutional. Ultra vires, meaning that the Commissioner of Police of St Vincent and the Grenadines acted outside of his authority. The judgment is clear that the Commissioner of Police, his action was procedurally improper, meaning that the Commissioner of Police did not follow procedure. The judgment is clear that the action of the Commissioner of Police is void, meaning that the decision to have sacked police officers has no validity in law in St Vincent and the Grenadines. The judgment is clear that the action of the Public Service Commission to deem that workers had resigned from their jobs and that they ceased to be public servants or public officers. The judgment is clear that that action is unlawful. It is against the law of St Vincent and the Grenadines, and that the action is disproportionate and wrong. The judgment is clear that the action of the other defendants in the case, including that of the Attorney General, is disproportionate and unconstitutional. The action of the Attorney General is against the highest law of the land in St Vincent and the Grenadines. It is unconstitutional. It has been observed that the judgment couldn't have been more emphatic that the government's COVID-19 vaccine mandate, which it forced on the people, is unconstitutional and plain wrong. Objective legal minds have intoned that they await the full judgment of the decision to digest the reasoning of the judge. They, in the meantime, however, are of the view that because of the emphatic nature of the decision, any appeal will also fail emphatically. It must be noted here that all those who participated in enabling, aiding, and abetting the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines to do what they did to the workers of St. Vincent and the Grenadines need to be shamed. Those who engaged in locking workers out of entering the premises to go to their jobs should hang their heads in shame. In St. Vincent and the Grenadines, do not aid and abet unconstitutional or criminal activity. The claimants to the judgment and their legal team have every right to feel vindicated. They have every right to demand that the workers are reinstated to their jobs with full benefits as declared in the judgment. The sacked and displaced workers have every right to look forward to resuming their jobs which were unlawfully taken away from them. The unconstitutional behavior of the government and its various departments cannot be brushed aside. Calls are therefore made for the ULP government to do the right thing and reinstate the workers with immediate effect. The unconscionable behavior of the government to suggest that they will appeal the decision even before the decision was known, and that they will seek a stay of execution of the judgment must not be allowed without resistance. It must not be allowed at all. The government must be called upon in the most vociferous of ways not to waste money on appealing a case which is doomed to fail on appeal. They, the government, must be made to reinstate all the sacked workers with immediate effect. No worker, none, must be made to continue to exist in extreme poverty whilst the ULP government wastes taxpayers' money, your money, the people's own money, to fatten the pockets of others. They, the government, must be made to end it now and to prevent further harm, especially financial harm, to the workers of the country. No government must be allowed to do what the court declares is unconstitutional and get away with it. The Constitution of St. Vincent and the Grenadines is there to protect the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And no government or its enablers or aiders and abettors are allowed to breach it and do that which is unconstitutional. Until next week, this is Brereton Horne with A View from the Outside, with a reminder to send your feedback as usual to aviewfromtheoutside@hotmail.com. You can also get us on Facebook at A View from the Outside and on YouTube at JMB Horne. Have a pleasant Saturday, have a wonderful Sunday, and have a productive week ahead, with everyone condemning the government's unconstitutional behavior and calling on the government to do the right thing and reinstate all of the affected workers.